Liberia. We should be patriotic. We should be nationalistic. We should be focused on how do we make Liberia better. What is the better option in this whole marketplace of ideas that we, consistently put forward? Because a lot of things, people have different opinions, different ideas. Some are true and tried. Some are untested. But at the end of the day, can we harmonize? Can we come to a point where we say, this is the best solution? Or, for those who are in the position, say, this is the way we are going. Yes, you're entitled to your criticism, you're entitled to your opinion, but this is the decision we have made, and this is the direction we are going. So this platform creates that opportunity. I know there are a lot of other platforms out there, and hopefully we'll be able to explore them as we move forward in this journey to continue to, explain to the Liberian people how we see things, how we envision things to be, and how we can build a shared vision around these sometimes competing ideas or even sometimes diametrically opposed ideas.
Thank you. On behalf of the Focus on Liberia family, we are glad to have you in this partnership of, exchanging views on the issues so that our people can better understand. We value the contribution you will be making to the national discourse, and I think many people will appreciate that. And we don't worry about the disagreement because it's human, and we should encourage that, because in disagreement sometimes we find common ground, and that's the common ground we need for the betterment of our country. But you are here, you are a politician. So this debut is not just to know who Vah Tukpah is. It's more so to hear from you how you see it, and that's the name of your program, How I See It with Vah Tukpah. So yes, we'll be asking you on how you see it on some key national issue. But quickly, who is Isaac? I know your name is a household name now, to many people, but there are many people who hear the name all the time, say, but I don't know this guy. So just briefly, who is Isaac Vah Tukpah Jr.?
Isaac is a simple guy, personable, love to engage people, highly opinionated, has some convictions that he finds fundamental to himself, that he holds, kind of sacrosanct and true, and he tries to live those. He's definitely far from perfect. He has flaws, he has limitations, but he's open. I'm receptive to, people's opinions, people's criticisms. Those should be expected, especially when you're in the public space. Not everybody will like, how you present yourself, whatever content you're offering, or just, the way you interact with them. So we have had some of those brushes. We have some people who just will totally trash anything we say or anything we do, even how we look. But that's part of it. That's part of it. And you just have to have that intrinsic belief in yourself, what you're thinking, what you want to do, and then, see how people respond to you. So it's about you being able to be secure in how you see things, how you think about things, and have that ability to articulate it so that people can hear and sometimes understand, but not necessarily agree. Just a little bit of background. I'm the CEO for Sustainable Development International. We focus on building green infrastructures. We are very climate and environment, conscious in how we do things. We have a model that we think works, especially in the developing world, where we try to bring the nexus of energy, preferably renewable energy, water, and agriculture as the core, for development. And we look at that process because some of those things are available and free. But at the same time, there's some limitations on how you can integrate them, how you can use them. But we have come up with a methodology where we integrate rain harvesting as well, because using the water, we believe using the water from the aquifer, which is cleaner than the surface water, and being able to recycle that water through rain harvesting, where like maybe during the rain season, we don't use that water. But at the core of that is the ability to grow food in a sustainable fashion that's nutritious and healthy, that's closer to the population that's consuming that food. Because sometimes a lot of food we see by the time it gets from the farm to the fork or to that table, the nutritional value is kind of gone, it's not there. And our people specifically in Liberia, we are undernourished. A lot of people growth are stunted simply because they don't eat the right food from the time they are a child in those developmental stages. So it affects them. So we try to cover some of the sustainable goals in our inclusion, especially as they relate to, access to water and sanitation and hygiene, as it relates to, food security, as it relates to empowerment, because whatever we want to do, especially when we get that opportunity in Liberia, is to be able to include the community, because that's the lowest element of development right there in terms of, infrastructure, in terms of economics and everything. Yes, the family unit is the most nuclear, but when you come to the community, that's where you can do, a lot more by empowering the people in the community, letting them buy into what you want to do. You guys work together to build these kind of systems. So that's my mindset in terms of, our corporation and what we're trying to do. So that's the business side. For me, I also operate on the humanitarian and philanthropic side. I'm involved with a couple of different nonprofits, and I'm also now taking that responsibility to engage other Liberian nonprofits. A while ago, one of the nonprofits I was with, or I am with, had the opportunity to bid for a proposal that was supposed to help nonprofits kind of become more institutional, right? In terms of building their back-end systems, having a good financial systems, having like a business plan, having a strategic plan as to how they expect to move the organization forward. What is their sustainability plan so that it's just not a one-shot thing, one grant and you're done? What do they do to maintain themselves? So these are all some of the things, because the civil society is so critical and so important in the development of, what we do and how we move our country forward. They play a critical role. So they got to be empowered in terms of their capacity, in terms of their internal infrastructure, capabilities, as well as their ability to implement, some of these things, whether it's from a funding perspective, it's from a partnership perspective. So I'm looking at that, looking at opportunities for funding and how we can work with different organizations. And then, in addition to that, we also have the Liberian Emergency and Disaster Relief Fund. That's an organization that initially was founded based on the flooding situation back in 2007. So we've been, plodding along, sometimes slowly, especially when I get distracted. But now we are building a robust organization that can look at so many different things and be able to help our people in so many different ways beyond just the disaster situation, but also look at how you can actually empower people, how we can train people. We're working on some certifications with regards to, what FEMA has to offer. There are a lot of classes out there for people who are interested in, in disaster management and being able to handle these different issues that affect communities, or just incident management per se. They have some pretty good classes out there that they can go to the FEMA website and be able to, that's the Federal Emergency Management Agency, and be able to, learn and get certified in some of these things. So these are all the kind of things that, I try to focus on in terms of how can we help our people move forward? How can we open up their eyes to the availability of information, capabilities, expertise that's out there, and I can help them be better citizens. I can help them work with their environment. I can help them to also empower other people. Because when each one teach one, or each one teach as many as they can, the level of intelligence, the level of capability, the level of exposure, all increases for each of those different communities. So it's just exciting for me to, unveil myself to more people, for them to understand where I come from, what my expectations are, some of the thoughts I have in terms of the different things we do, from governance to politics to economics to all the other sectors that, we look at as priority areas for our country to be able to develop. So it's just a wonderful and exciting time for, me to be partnering with this platform where there's a lot of people out there hungry for knowledge, hungry for leadership, hungry for assistance. And, how do we change our mindsets? There are so many mindset issues that we have in terms of what inhibits us. A lot of times we are more negative than we are optimistic or pursuing something. We found reasons not to take certain actions. And those things can be very debilitating and hold, individuals back, hold organizations back, it even affects the accumulative impact, affects the national as a whole. So this is about empowerment. This is about how we can work together. Obviously, there will be some things we're not like and we'll criticize. We'll be able to offer some of the solutions to those things. But at the same time, we say sometimes we don't have the answer. So we try to get together a multi kind of stakeholder group to see how we can look at some of these things. So basically, that's who I am.
All right. That is a good package right there. I hope it gives people a good sense of, what you've been involved with. And it is important that they know, because you are a leader and you have ambition for leadership. So it's good for the people to know who they will be electing or may not be electing.
Right.
Yeah. So let's come to.
Just to touch on that part,
Yeah.
Elections, in my mind, is trying for the people to decide, like you say, who they want to lead them. But sometimes you lead from behind. Leadership is not, even when you don't win an election, you can still be a representative leader in so many different ways and represent people's interests.
Sure.
So ultimately, it's just not about winning. Ultimately, it's about how can you, in a capacity where you are perceived as a leader, be able to impact people, sometimes individually, sometimes on, a greater scale. But so people should not just be caught up with, win or not win. Sometimes losing is winning. So it all depends on the perspective. It all depends on the end game. It all depends on your personal approach to dealing with these kind of issues, failures, lack of success, or, just having a certain segment mindset fixed in a certain way that may not be aligned with yours, and you don't get your desired results. But you still have to be consistent. You still have to push to, get your agenda heard, and you have to create your own space that you can make whatever little difference. Because at the end of the day, a lot of times it's about legacy. What did you do when you were here? How did you impact people? And what were the gains made?
All right. Let's come to the aspect that the Liberian people like to talk about more, governance. And because we are in an emergency time now, let's start with COVID-19. Our government, like any other government, is trying to do what it can to help minimize the spread of the virus. And so we have heard a lot of things that they are doing. What is your assessment, and how is that fight, in your opinion? What they're doing right, what they're doing wrong, and how can they do it better?
Well, we have to take kind of an exhaustive analysis to look at the entire picture of what they're doing right, what they're not doing right. But that comes with information, right?
Right.
In my opinion, I don't think there's enough information being provided by those who are in the leadership situations for, the different, starting with the special presidential, advisory council on coronavirus, or whatever that particular leadership body is. They have not been clear when they will come from that level to update us at that executive level, right?
Right.
At that supreme level, because they have now an executive, committee on coronavirus that's being headed by Mary Bro. I don't know if since she's been appointed, has she had a press conference to educate people on what they're doing, what their plans are, what are some of the challenges they are facing, how can other people factor into this, whole coronavirus fight? Because yes, this is not easy. It is real. Here in Maryland now, our numbers have been going up. Yeah. People are dying. Economies are dying. Businesses are dying. Yeah. And I can just imagine the dramatic effect it will have on us as a people. The amount of small businesses, the amount of you know, informal businesses that will just go under completely. So we have to think about this. We need more information to be able to fully analyze, but just from a superficial level, because that's where we are. We are not really in depth because the data is not there, the information is not there, and we don't want to be presumptive. But there's certain expectations in these kind of situations that you want people to have. Is there a clear plan or roadmap for this coronavirus fight? I mean, maybe, I don't know. Have you seen anything?
Well, I've heard a lot of pronouncement. I heard about a stimulus package that was approved. I heard about state of emergency, like people should stay indoor. So there have been measures. We heard a lot of things, but there have also been noise about the enforcement thereof. So
right. So
yeah.
So when we want to see is, at the end of the day, where are we heading? What's our analysis around this coronavirus? How are our people getting it? Because we have had some cases where we can't explain, right?
Yeah.
And similarly, we have seen the trend is not consistently rising, but it's on an upward trend going up. Right. I think 2 days ago, we're at 178 cases.
Right.
And probably 2 days before that, we're at 158. Right. So are we ramping at 10 cases a day? What is that? And what is the plan to continue? Yeah, we talk about what people should do in terms of the face mask, in terms of the no crowds, in terms of the hand washing, in terms of the physical distancing, more so than social distancing. Right. But that level of appreciation of what this virus is has not reached to our people. There are people out there who don't believe the virus exists. They think government is lying to them and stuff. So how does government build that confidence that when government tell people, look, this is serious, we have to do something? That should be a question in the minds of those in government, that why our people don't believe us, And
where is the distrust coming from, Isaac? Where is that distrust coming from?
Well, the distrust, part of it has been historical. Government has not been for the people. We have to be honest. It's not just built from these last 2.5 years. But I don't know that we have done something in the last 2.5 years to regenerate the level of trust needed for a healthy engagement between government and the population. That doesn't exist. So that's part of it. People, can you imagine talking to some people? They believe that our government officials are faking it and laying down in
14 military hospital.
Yes, 14 hospital. To why would any sound government official do that? So we just hope that there can be some way that government can try to reach our people. They don't understand the significance of this thing, that they can own the process of trying to flatten this curve or trying to kick, coronavirus out of our country, because it's disastrous. We see what's happening here, in the Western world, what's happening in Italy, what happened in Spain, what happened in China, and how the numbers here are just uncontrollable. And the impact on the Black population here, which is a disenfranchised population, similar to most of our population over there. A lot of underlying health problems that people have, that this virus, even though it's a pulmonary virus in terms of the lungs and, the vascular system, but it actually goes into the blood as well. So luckily for us, we haven't experienced that. Maybe our dynamic need to be looked at in a different way. What's the physical underlying situation for some of our people? Are they testing beyond the virus, or are they just testing only for the virus? So what is our inventory of all these things that we need? Do we really have adequate testing? Are we doing robust testing that we should, or only doing testing like the minister said on their bodies? So how proactive are we? We supposedly put 6,000 community finders out there, but what has been the impact of those 6,000 people? Have you seen any analysis around that? Is it really 6,000 people that we have in the field doing this thing? Do we really need 6,000 people? We don't know that. The ratio from, the number of cases to the number of people out there, I don't know if it really matches. Then we got people who are doing the actual contact tracing. When I look at the numbers from a few days ago, they said 850 people were contacts on a follow-up. What is the real breakdown of these people? How are we engaging them? How has it been in terms of the contacts driving towards people with active confirmed cases or to the quarantine process or all of that? So there needs to be more elaboration. Just handing out, a situation report on an every other day or every day basis, and people not even knowing where is the central point. And that's something I want to do next, to create a website where I can concentrate all the, Liberia coronavirus information.
And I wanted to ask this quickly. Another thing that, I don't see is that the numbers that have been generated, I don't see the breakdown for people to know, okay, we have more cases in this area. So let's place emphasis in that area. Since, for example, let me use my own place of Nekrutan. Let's say Nekrutan has the most cases. Why are they not giving us that information? So that those who are in charge with the prevention can say, hey, Nekrutan, it's not to stigmatize you, but you have our most cases. So you have to pay attention. That way you minimize the spread, but they just give the number, oh, Monserrato, this amount, and you don't know where the highest number is concentrated. So it's kind of, I think doing so will help. What do you think?
Well, what you're saying, I think they do it to a certain extent.
Okay.
But at the level that somebody like you, who's, kind of in the news, who's aware about things, wouldn't know, that's what's scary, right?
Okay.
So they do blow out a portion of Monserrato County in their situation report with a color scheme of, cases. And what is the other word? I think the locations where those specific cases are, but that is not mass communicated to people that they understand. Look, in Nukuta, like you're saying, our people, we have had more deaths from there. They increase every day. We see about 5 or 6 people in Nukuta, being infected, being confirmed cases. How do we work with those people? So how do we sensitize the community leaders to be able to do what's necessary to help? Do we need more buckets there? Do we need more hand washing thing? So your point is very, very, important for them to consider and look at. It's just that putting out, like I said before, just putting out the reports not enough. We've got to have people in government who can on a daily basis, break down the reports, sensitize the different communities, have those kind of talk shows syndicated around the country where people can listen to them and start to understand, even communicate it in people tribal languages, that they understand the significance of fighting this thing collectively and how critical it is for we as a people to be able to get under this thing and be able to remove this blanket that's over us. Because we're not sure where we're trending. Honestly, I'm not sure if in 2 weeks' time we'll be able to, flatten a little bit and start seeing 1 or 2, so that impact is not clear to me. For us to keep getting 8 cases every day, 10 cases here, we need to get a better grasp.
All right. Again, folks in cyberspace watching us here at Focus on Liberia, you are watching our program, or the program, How I See It with Vah Tukpah.
You can own it too. It's okay. You can own it with
I don't want to own your program. This is your idea. And we are just partnering. I'm Anthony here and I'm facilitating, and this is Mr. Tukpah's program, How I See It with Vah Tukpah Jr. It will come on every Thursday, starting this Thursday and every other Thursday. So keep following. Some people have been accusing, or criticizing the president for conflict of interest. The president has a project that gears toward the fight against coronavirus. And then there is the national fight. What you make of that? Do you see conflict like other people are thinking or not?
Is it, I don't know if there's a conflict of interest, but is it really clear that the president has a separate, completely separate project, different from the project that the government is executing? I'm not sure.
I would say yes, because I follow it. the coronavirus song was released by the president, and that was way before the government could come up with its own program or effort to fight this coronavirus. The only thing the government had at the time when the president released the song was the health protocols put in place, mainly RIA. And at the time, the government was still struggling to establish quarantine centers. That was when Mr. Weah released that song. And later on, there was a sample and his bucket. And it said the Weah's project is just definite, the Weah's project.
Okay. So we hope there are clear lines of delineation, right? But I have seen comments from people where supposedly money, contributed by the international community was used to make those songs or that song, So what is what? And that's why we need transparency in these processes.
Right.
Let them say the international community has given us $1.5 million, let's say for this specific activity, operational stuff.
Right.
This is how we use it. 200,000 went for buckets, 100,000 went for Clorox, 50,000 went for soap.
Right.
Mass, another 75,000. So let them be clear about what those expenditures were. But I don't know if I have seen, some kind of outturn or some kind of report about how these fundings that we have heard around being allocated. Yes, if the president has his own personal project that he's using with his personal money, it's fine for him to do that. Maybe he wants to emphasize on certain things. But at this point, he is the president, he is our head, and it should be about the entire whole. And his focus should be on this, special presidential advisory committee that he heads for coronavirus and how effective it can be, rather than him maybe trying to manage something. But then again, it could be people who want to put the president's name on something. The president's name is always a lightning rod, or is always, something that people want to use because it has traction. But at the end of the day, I think if it's just one project that the government is sponsoring, he is the head of the government, he's over that project, the success of that project gets credit to his administration. The failure of that project is a negative towards his administration. So that concentrated focus on one effort to move this process forward for us to be, focused on what the real solution is, what the progress is, and people see him actively engaged in terms of, him coming and giving his updates on these things. Yes, like once a month or whatever time period that people feel the president is vested in the process, not just about his image being on buckets of the nomenclature of a project.
And let's touch on the issue of the tonic water, which is the organic tonic water that came from Madagascar.
Right.
And the president aide, Sekou or Kalasco, just before that little package could arrive, posted on Facebook, huge consignment is coming, just to realize that it was a box.
So has Sekou come back? Has he come back to withdraw that statement like Toby did?
I'm yet to see. To see. And so to see that was just a little box and this guy still have a job, I'm just confused. But again, what's your opinion? Because those of us who grew up in the villages, our grandparents helped to use these herbs, and we are here today. People are passionate about it, where others are looking at the necessary medical or scientific processes not being followed. Do you have concern too?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
But I look at it a little differently, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's start with the whole scientific versus, indigenous or the herbal situation, everything like that.
Right.
So I put a post out there the other day because supposedly the World Health Organization came out and basically said they don't have confidence in the Madagascar process.
Right.
They test, how these traditional or the herbal medicine can work.
Right.
And people took a different spin.
Right.
To say the World Health is embracing the process and want to work with, the Madagascar people to test it. So there was one article about that.
Okay.
And I posted that article. But I also received information from a friend whose sister is in Tanzania, who used the COVID organics, the medicine from Madagascar,
Right.
And she said it was healing her sister.
Okay.
But the argument some people make is that some people will heal anyway,
Right.
because
Right.
of their natural immunity and resistance to the virus.
Exactly.
Or the fact that they can do that home care.
Right.
So it may not be a cure per se, but the ability to suppress some of the other things that will aggravate the system, using some of these herbal things, makes it, convenient for them to recover.
Right.
So it's not necessarily a cure, but it could be just a facilitator of suppressing some of the other conditions until the body can generate enough response to fight the virus. So we don't know that COVID organics is a cure. Well, we know that it works for some people. Whether it works because those people are already healthy and will recover anyway or not, we don't know. So I've said maybe it could be a magic bullet. Maybe Africa has it for this cure. But that doesn't mean I'm saying, oh, everybody go and use, this particular COVID organic. Yeah, it has worked for some people, but we don't know. And I am of the frame of mind that testing should be done to certify that this stuff actually works. The clinical trials, the process can be done. It can also be accelerated. They can try to work with Madagascar to accelerate the process. Right. But I don't believe we should dismiss what the folks are saying, the claims they are making, but they can vet it and verify and work with them. Yes, this Madagascar Institute has been around for a long time. They have been doing stuff, but I don't know what the clinical standards are. And they need to put whatever testing they did up there for observation, for peer review, for other institutes of these kind of clinical testing and stuff to be able to assess it. Because there's a whole body of knowledge out there related to these kind of things. So they should open themselves up to being tested, being validated, being verified. But
all right, I read an article. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I read an article from BBC on this organic herbal medicine from Madagascar, and in the article said that there were 20 persons that were tested, and out of the 20, 2%, according to them, got cured, and they believe from the organic stuff. So I don't know, 2%, what should be the percentage? Like what? 2? So let's put it at
10%.
Okay, let's put it at 10%. So then let's go back to scientific processes to certify a particular medication. Okay. Do they low for just 10%, or has the standard been let's say 80%? So if we can agree for the sake of argument that they always look for 8 or 9%, because then the survival rate is high, then this thing really does not meet any scientific standards. And that's why people are raising the concerns.
And the concerns are valid. I'm not saying those concerns are not valid. The concerns are valid. And those standards have been set across the world, right? So we've got to respect standards that have been set. Right. Yes, some people feel the World Health Organization is being funded by special interests. The big pharmaceuticals may not want an African medicine that's so cheap, to be on the world market.
Right.
So, again, that's this whole lack of trust in the system, because the system has not stood for us over time. Different vaccinations, different testing have been to the detriment of Black people. So we have always been at the bottom of the totem pole. So for some of those who are enlightened, they have a problem with, the way the international organizations or institutions carry this out. But there are also those who have seen some of this stuff work for them, for their families. Traditionally, they talk about Jolobo, they're talking about some of the other stuff. And they believe in this stuff, that this stuff works. So you can tell them otherwise. But I believe the World Health Organization need to work with the government of Madagascar to see how they can really improve this situation around this particular thing. Either disprove it, in short order, or accelerate the clinical trials that we can see if it is a cure or whether it's not a cure.
All right, let's come to the politics aspect of the whole fight against COVID-19. and this one, I sometimes I try to put my own feelings in it. Maybe I shouldn't. So the lawmakers approve this stimulus package, some people call it a package, it was intended to get some relief for our people as they have been made to stay indoor and spend less time hustling.
Right.
But up to now, we have yet to get, an update about timeline when they will get the first grain of rice. Let us forget about COP. So who do we hold responsible here? The president sent it to them, they pass it, and they got their letting. Some of them denying it, they call it operational funds, but they got it at the time they just approved this, and the Liberian people are just waiting for this rice that they really need to feed their kids. Where do you stand? How you see this one?
Again, it's about plan. You see, the Senate, I don't want to say they did this in a vacuum,
okay,
but it had no insight because we haven't seen a breakdown. We haven't seen a plan. We haven't seen a timeline. We haven't seen a schedule about this. Yes, it's supposed to be urgent. It's a state of emergency food stimulus package. So there got to be some state of emergency. So there has to be some level of urgency applied to this happening, and that doesn't seem to be forthcoming. Yes, they have just tried to warn people that the stimulus package distribution will not benefit everyone. But what are the metrics they are using to determine who benefits? There are some people, we don't have an identification system nationally. Something we have cried about for the longest time. We don't have it. So we don't know who's who. We're not clear in terms of, who in the informal system needs that. We don't know what the breakdown is, what they are purchasing in terms of food. Is it just rice? Is it rice and other stuff? Are they billing separate care packages? Are they giving whole bag of rice? So the whole delivery methodology has not been explained to people. So if they can bring clarity to this and then designate how and be specific about how this, there are limitations because there's no data for a lot of things they should be doing in a quantitative manner.
Right.
Notwithstanding, we know the depressed areas, we know the counties that have the more urban population in those listed. Initially, it was for 4 or 5 counties,
right,
but the lawmakers expanded it to the entire country. So we're talking about 5 million people. Maybe 70%, 80% are, let's say disenfranchised, so we'll say 80%. So we're talking about 4 million persons, including children. So how many households are there? So if we say there's usually 5 or 6 persons to a household, we're talking about 700,000, 800,000 households. Are they going to get to those people? What is the logistical plan in terms of this delivery? I saw some guy delivering some rice the other day and giving instructions to his people. And it was just like he was clueless about what an operation like that should be in terms of the instruction. Maybe he was just doing it for the camera. I don't know. Maybe they had a written down plan, how to go to each household in this particular community. They had already assessed it and knew where they were going. But if they don't do this right, and the way people are hungry, the way people have limited time or limited access to do their 1-2 hustle from 6 o'clock to 3 o'clock, or maybe to 1 o'clock, because they say people got to be off the streets by 3. And we know the transportation problem for people to get from one point to the next, it takes a long time with everybody trying to depart at the same time. So it's an issue. Some neighborhoods, people may go there, they may probably raid those things. So hopefully they'll have some kind of protection around these poor people who will be doing these deliveries. They will have some clear explanation that there will be no fights breaking or no riots around these, because we saw a picture earlier, I think from Uganda or somewhere, where people were rioting and being upset because of access to food and distribution like that. So we need to have a control program. They really need to communicate it, especially the targeted areas that they're going to, how they're coming, what they expect from the people, how they can engage the community leaders to make sure things are organized and be able to deliver food to these people. And their timeline should be spelled out. It should be very, very clear what they are doing. So we just hope they can step back, maybe hopefully a few hours, because people need the food now. People are crying for it.
Thank you.
There are even some people who are saying the statement that the Minister of Finance made that this food will not get to everyone. that upsetting some people already. So hopefully they can be able to reconcile those things and get it to the right people.
That's true. I can understand why people are getting upset, because the president SOE locked down every county, and now when it comes to food, you are saying certain people only will get it. Those people feel that that is not fair. Finally, on the COVID-19 fight, okay, when the president constituted a committee that included Fina Bono and Mary Bro, you wrote a post and you clearly said to the president, no, that's not the way to go. Why you felt that way?
We need expertise in areas like this. If you do a comparison across the globe of all those who have been designated to lead the coronavirus effort, they have significant expertise in public health or medicine at the minimum. They have that level of exposure to these kind of situations. This is not a normal situation. Yes, you know, some people, you know, see Mary Bro as somebody who can come and make things happen, but she comes with the authority of that executive leader. Previously, you know, Madam Saliv, and then now President Weah. But what happened the first day that she got appointed? She was in the street with ratting. Seriously?
Maybe that's her experience. Holding that ratting and making sure that people leave the street. Yeah.
That is her experience. Trying to coordinate and build a team around strategic objectives. So what has been the output from her since she took that position? I personally don't know. And I think there was a subsequent communication that supposedly the Ministry of Health is leading things. But why did you appoint Mary Bro then? What is the purpose? How are they operating? Now it's like, you know, Mosaka Falah has kind of disappeared off the scene. I don't know. And he's the head of the National Public Health Institute of Liberia. They are at the center of this thing in collaboration with the Ministry of Health. Is there some issue there? Because one time he expressed his frustration when he said there were 300 people running around, you know, without any kind of protection or any kind of accounting for where they were and not bringing them into test. So what is the plan? That's the issue, you know, with this. I don't think Mary Bro has the capability to plan effectively. She doesn't understand the issue. She doesn't even understand the language in that sector. That's something people underestimate. Because somebody can, you know, cut grass over there, it doesn't mean they understand how the grass grows. It doesn't mean they understand the chemical makeup of the grass. You know, it doesn't mean they can protect the grass from the sun or from whatever situation or from pests or anything like that. So knowledge, sector knowledge don't just come easily. It comes with experience, it comes with exposure, it comes with education. And you can't limit it to say because somebody can jump and go to, you know, the passport section and use the support of the president to implement things and get things running. That means they really put a system. And a system that Mary Bro has touched, by the time she leaves, it's not a system, it breaks down. You know, has she trained people? Has she empowered people? There's some succession plan in terms of, you know, people understand our step order to get to the top. No, we haven't seen that. So that was part of my objection to Mary Bro's appointment. And to me, it's playing out. I haven't seen any desired results from this. I haven't seen the level of information, the level of coordination, level of planning necessary for this kind of delivery to be effective. So hopefully, you know, Minister Tukpah, who is the head of the food program, along with the World Food Program people, can really do a very decent job of being able to get to our population providing food because the people are hungry.
And Finambodo was one other person you suggested clearly in your post should not be on that committee. Why?
Without question, that's not her area. You know, what is our logistics experience in terms of what they wanted her to do, what they were defining for her? It's just not there. So, you know, we got to be able to talk to our leaders and tell them, we speak truth to power when we see things are not right. You know, I mean, at this point, some of us have spent time in the background talking, that time is over. It's now time for us to be frank and honest and, you know, really tell the truth to these people and provide alternatives in terms of, you know, what direction we think they should take. Not that they may take it, but we can't just sit and say we allow things to just go the way they're going when based on our experience, based on our exposure, based on our education, We see alternatives that will produce better results, and then we don't say anything.
Folks in cyberspace, you are watching How I See It with Vah Tukpah here on Focus on Liberia. I'm Anthony C. facilitating, and Mr. Tukpah is telling us how he sees it on the issues that we are bringing forth. Isaac, of reason, this building on 9th Street, the president's mansion now, they call it, pictures start flying on Facebook again. And you wrote a post, but before I get to your post, Smith Tobe went on the radio, called into one of the, I think, OKFM, and said, look, that building that you guys talking about is for Timothy Weah, the president's son. The president has given him the property, and he's the one carrying on the development. And for your information, that Smith's second time making this very statement about Timothy being the owner of that property. He said that sometime last year on Sekou Kane's show. But this time, 24 hours later, he had to go back to OKFM to say the information that he was giving was not correct. And the president is the one who owns that property. 3 questions. Did Smith Tobe lie, or was he made to lie? And what they felt the need, if they lie, to go about telling the first lie and now try to clean it up. And now what they felt the need now that the president need to own that particular property. What is going on here?
Personally, I don't believe Smith Tobe has that mandate to just come out unilaterally and tell the people of Liberia that a property that has historically been owned by the president is not owned by him anymore without some instruction from somebody, whether it was the president, whether it was, McGill, whether it was whoever. Somebody had to tell Smith. Smith would not come and defend the situation. Obviously, those pictures, when people saw it, it just flew in the face of everything that's happening in the country, over the last 2.5 years. According to everything we inherited, a broken economy. So if you, as president, trying to resuscitate a broken community, whether you got money or not, and that's a whole separate topic. You can't just splurge. You can't just try to demonstrate that wealth or that opulence, from the other apartments to, whatever happened at repairs or whatever at his, Jamaica resort, or to this building. Those things are just not appealing to people. And optics matter. Optics matter in governance, optics matter in leadership, how you make things look. So that's the first thing, probably the response from people when those pictures were put out that generated that first denial in terms of the ownership of the property. And then to just turn around right away and say, without the press person who was interviewing him pressing to say, okay, who told you? Who told you that this property was for Timothy Weah? Why bring this child into this? This man is a young man, I should say. He's not, well, he's still a child, but he's a young man who's pursuing a professional career that is in a country where, the whole issue of foreign corrupt practices and ownership and taxation are more serious, especially us of, the different complexion. So who knows who has an issue with him at that level? He's at the highest level of the sport, at the national level. There's attention on him. There are other people who want the space that he occupies. So the propaganda and politics in those kind of situations could affect him negatively with that kind of pronouncement. So people have to consider those things, and the withdrawal is fine, but just the whole way it went about,
right?
We don't know.
All right, then let's come to your post. And Mr. President, the people are hungry and dying, and you are building mansions. You asking a question,
right?
Why you felt the need to ask this question?
Well, I felt the need to ask the question because like I said earlier, it flies in the face of logic to do that. Whether you got the money or not in this situation, especially based on the principle that we came to power with to try to make a difference for our people, to try to ensure that every citizen, every Liberian has the opportunity, right, to create an affordable life. That means job creation, that means facilitating business opportunities for people. That means, helping people with education and all of those different things. If we are in a broken economy where most of those things are not happening, why 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or few people, would be able to just express their wealth, their affluence or anything? And those are those same disparities and inequalities that have caused strife before. We need to avoid those. I don't believe it's a reflection of what we as a group, the CAC, came to power with. So I was asking that question. And it's not like it just happened. We know people have been hungry for the last 2 years, and some people have been dying unnecessarily. Our healthcare system has not been robust. Some of the questions we even need to ask Mary Bro is what happened with all the surplus that came from the Ebola situation? They were all in GSAR. The U.S. military took like 2-3 weeks to, kind of break down some of those things and stack it. Where are those things? Because it's like we started from scratch with this whole coronavirus situation when we shouldn't have. There should have been opportunities already existing or infrastructure already existing from what happened then. So when you don't ask those questions in the past and you just move to the present, you are creating an issue. So the point is, do we want to look the same? Is this whole issue just about the president getting properties or the president billing his properties out as opposed to billing up the country and working towards the country? People can argue that his own money, I'm not going to get into that discussion. I'm more about the optics of what is happening and how I believe we should move forward, that the focus should be on development, national development, empowering our people, providing the bread and butter solutions to the issues that they are facing, rather than individual aggrandizement or individual exposure of, what their financial situation is.
And finally, on this particular subject with the projects of We Are in Homes, people are talking about, and putting Smith Tobe in the picture also. Do you share any sympathy for Smith? Is he being used here? Can he be held, or should he hold himself responsible for the lie he told or was made to tell?
I mean, from his expression, the interview, he seemed to make it seem like it was part of his job. That's some of the things you have to balance on being a messenger. I personally, I can't hold the messenger part, to blame, because I really do not believe he initiated that by himself. There's somebody there. If there was an investigation, we'll find out somebody told Smith to say whatever he said. So I pity the situation he's in. It's a very tough situation that he got to be issuing denials and reversals and stuff like that. It's not easy for anybody, but he also has a connection directly with the president as an in-law. So when you put that family, you put the perception of, it will always be there to me, the whole nepotism thing, because that's a family member, that's an in-law in a critical position, whether he's qualified or not. And I've said it so many times, some people think I'm joking, like, if I was ever president, my brother would not work in the government. He can probably be a remote advisor, but he can be somewhere else. He won't be there. So this whole relative thing is tough because, and we saw the same thing with Madam Salif. She gave so many different rationale and excuses, as if there were no other qualified Liberians for her son to hold 3-4 positions or to be at the position he was, or the fact that, people in other countries, they prefer family members. You talking about government, you talking about a government preferring it to be a family member to a president, so we got to dispense with those superficial, rationale or excuses for these kind of critical national things that we need to be having, professional people in those positions. So, empathize for his situation, for what happened, but I do feel he's in a precarious position with him having to continuously be defensive on issues versus on issues.
All right, and finally, because of time, because how see where Vah Tukpah is scheduled for 1 hour,
right?
And let me ask you this final question.
Okay.
President Weah came from your party. You know what you people had a vision, the plans you people had.
Definitely.
And he came to power with all of you help and contribution.
Sure.
And now he's changing position. I can give you a few examples just to prove my point. When he came, he said, when we find corruption, we will use the full extent of the law. Later, he said, we are all related. CDC was about accountability. We had declared his asset and make it public 2005, 2011. But now he won, he said, no, I can't do it. I have my family to protect. In all the changing positions, with all the noise about corruption, your party policy, pillows, we don't see them, you don't see them, impacting the life of the people. First question, do you share any sympathy that he's in a tight spot, or do you hold him more responsible for all these things that are happening?
You sure you want me to go into in-depth because the time is gone?
But no, just briefly, we'll have more time to go into there, but just briefly.
Right. No, just off the top.
Yeah.
That's not what we signed up for. That's not what the CDC is about, based on all the literature and all the documentation we have. And we can, take time, go through our core values, go through our philosophy, go through the reason for the formation of the CDC versus what we are seeing happening today. There's a contradiction there. And how we bridge that gap is the responsibility of the president. He needs to be tough on accountability. That's the key issue. And you left for the whole thing about Vah Tukpah. That how can he go back to LACC? What sense does that make for anybody, any rational person? The man has been proven to be a fraud. He's not a Liberian. But yet, our highest integrity institution, we have a fraudulent person still there. On what grounds? I've heard he sued us and withdrew the case. So what, is this a joke? This is governance. These are people's lives we're talking about. This LACC should have what? Produced the 25 million report already. Where is that report? Is it still Vah Tukpah? Is it on President Weah? Because ISO, laugh at Madam Celia, says she used to use all those different reports for both ends. She had no interest in opening them and revealing the contents and taking action against those who have pilfered the national resources. So at some point, President Weah need to be accountable towards the people of Liberia in terms of ensuring that he is the chief accountability officer in the country, that he will ensure that the integrity institutions function. And, just to piggyback on what you guys were talking about earlier, I think it was yesterday, you and some people were talking about institutions.
Right.
I don't believe we have real institutions. Those institutions are limited in their independence, in their ability to execute, and I think they are just facades. Yes, they don't have people of integrity in some of them, because I definitely would not consider Vah Tukpah a man of integrity.
No.
But they themselves, they are kind of, toothless bulldogs or paper tigers. They're not real institutions that stand on the fundamental principles of the autonomy and independence they should, be exhibiting. So hopefully we can relook at these things. We can be in positions to influence the independence of the institution. That's where the legislature should be. The GSC, where are they? What is GSC doing? There's been so many talks of, corruption and other issues around, and we're not getting substantive reports about these things to either dispel them or to say, yes, they happen, Mr. President, take action. So, on that note, I want to say—
And just a quick answer on this one. When the Vah Tukpah thing came out, you wrote a post also and you asked the president, hey, just put that guy, man. He's not the one for that job, and he's yet to do it, despite the Senate making a decision to reject the guy for the next position. But the very Senate too is adamant and say, well, maybe he's good for LACC, even though he's not good for the election commission. So are you more disappointed now that the president is yet to act on your advice to call this man?
Well, on that advice, he withdrew the appointment, but I still think he should fire this guy from this place and hand him over. And that's what needs to happen. Yes, you know, I mean, I don't know if disappointed is the word, but you know, it's something that the president should take action on. And especially for him to put a frivolous lawsuit against the Republic of Liberia. You know, you're not even a legal entity in the country. It's just ridiculous how we look at things. All right, folks in cyberspace, and that is how we will come to the end of the broadcast here with How I See It with Vah Tukpah on Focus on Liberia. The program will be on every Thursday here at Focus on Liberia, and you will hear from Isaac on how he sees it on all of the national issues. This is just a debut, and we're just getting started. You will get more from him as we continue the program. Mr. Tukpah, thank you, and let's do this again. Wonderful. I just want to say thank you to you for hosting. For those who were able to listen, we appreciate it. In some instances, there will be some interaction with the audience, but we are looking to present an issue-driven platform here. We'll be trying to offer solutions to different things. We'll try to be as thought-provoking as we can be. There will be times where we'll be calling on people to exercise their, you know, patriotism and awaken a consciousness of what it means to be a Liberian. You know, how can we rebuild some level of unity and being on the same page to push our development, you know, forward. So thank you for having me, and I look forward to this wonderful partnership with Focus on Liberia. Thank you. Thank you, and this partnership can only get better here at Focus on Liberia. Folks, it's the first time. We look forward to getting better continuously. I know. So folks, thank you, and this is how we'll draw down the curtains here. I am Anthony Cie, who have been facilitating here on How I See It with Vah Tukpah on Focus on Liberia. The virus is still around. Stay safe, protect your family, protect yourself. Let us keep safe so that we can help our country. Bye-bye. We are Liberia. Liberia is our home. Liberia people. Our